Hi everybody and welcome to the Gratitude, Inspiration and Happiness Workshop for July. And I'm delighted to announce our speakers for this evening. We'll start with the handsome Danny Hughes, who we are delighted to have in the building or on the Zoom. The equally handsome and wise Gary Jenkins, and the beautiful Robyn and Anna will be finishing up. So what we're going to do, the theme tonight is what have I missed?
Just Anna. And just Anna.
Just Anna?
Anna, yeah.
Did I say just Anna?
No, you didn't. You just said Anna. No beautiful, no wise, no nothing.
I said the beautiful Anna. Robyn and Anna. Oh my goodness, this is going to be like herding cats tonight. I can just feel.
That's why we have record.
Sorry, Susan.
I'm nervous about doing these. I can't think why. Anyway, so without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Danny, who's going to share with us about his charitable projects. Danny lives over in Spain and runs an Indian restaurant over there, and that has opened all sorts of doors and ideas and inspiration. So I'll hand over to you, Danny.
Bless you. Thank you, Susan. So yeah, firstly, thank you to both of you for inviting me here today. So just a little bit of a brief background for me. I was born in Oxford and I was brought up in Hastings. Left school, didn't have a clue what I was going to do. I always envied the people that knew what they were going to do. Cut long story short, I started with a company, sweeping the floors. Just went with just let it all unfold. I went off to Cambridge Botany School to become an agronomist. And I was representing Tesco's, a bit like the man from Del Monte, living in Jersey in five-star hotels, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, after doing that for a while, with all the pressure, I decided, is that it? Is that my life? You know, because I could see people that were like much older than me. I was only 24 at the time, they were like 50. And I'm thinking, if I carry on the route I'm going to be taking, I'm going to be like him. And I wasn't really thinking it was going to be that exciting. You've got to think about your life a little bit like going to the cinema. If you go and watch a film, and you know what the ending's going to be. Okay, you've got a lot of security, but you know what the ending's going to be. It's a little bit boring. So I thought to myself, there's got to be more to life than that. So I left that. I just went back to Hastings, didn't know what the hell I was going to do. So I sort of stayed with my mate for a little bit, got a job in sales, and I realised that I was quite good with sales, because I didn't realise, because after working in the fields, I really enjoyed people. I found it very easy to sell. And I thought to myself, if I could sell furniture, I could sell anything. So I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to go to America and sell houses. I know my accent's not as good as yours, Gary, but I knew that if I went to America and I learned the housing market, I think I could do quite well. So that's my plan. So I got a job. I didn't want to be with any dodgy old estate agents. So I thought to myself, I'll get a job with Halifax. I went there. They weren't actually looking for people, but I just sold myself, got a job, started at the bottom. Cut a long story short, I've worked my way up in 5 years, become a troubleshooter for them. So I used to go into the branches that weren't performing. I'd go in there, sit back, see how it was all running, change the staff around, put it into profit, get into my next job. And then I was getting back to that same sort of feeling. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking, yeah, great job, great money, security. I could see where it was going. And I was getting a little bit like, it's got to be more to life than that. So when I was working at Halifax, I met my wife, Claudine. She's one of the staff members there. Her and I got married, and we decided to move to Spain. The Halifax gave me a 5-year career break, so I thought to myself, well, why not? You know, what am I going to lose? So I moved to Spain, and we thought to ourselves, what are we going to do in Spain? Because in Spain, you've only got estate agents, bars, restaurants, and timeshare. I didn't want to do the bars. Didn't want to become an alcoholic like a lot of them do. Didn't want to get into timeshare because that's a bit dodgy. You know, it's got like a bit of a stigma attached to it. So we thought, okay, what we're going to do this? Let's do Indian restaurant, you know, because the number one dish at the time was chicken tikka masala. We thought, okay, why don't we go to Spain, open up an Indian restaurant, not even being Indian, it's going to be a right challenge, but hey ho, I'm going to be up for that. Didn't know how the film was going to finish, you know, so I thought to myself, if it didn't work out, I can always go back to England. So that's what we did. We moved to Spain. So 1 minute I'm working in the offices, and next minute I'm out in the sunshine with the hammer, building our restaurant, and it was a real challenge. I can honestly say, it's probably the hardest challenge I've ever done. But yeah, it was great. What I'm going to do, if it's okay with you guys, if I can get it, sorry, you know what it is, I had it all set up because I had set my computer back up. I've lost it, but I was hoping to give you a little presentation. So anyway, yeah, so we come to Spain, set up an Indian restaurant. It's probably the hardest thing that we've ever done. And hang on a second, I'm just seeing if I can get into, excuse me for a second. Oh, here we go. Can you share your screen, Susan? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, do you think we can share screens?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, so if I go on to, hang on a
Go on
second.
to the Zoom, just the main Zoom page along the bottom, there should be a green button saying share screen.
No, I haven't got that. Hang on a second. Here we go, share screen. Here we go.
Bingo, fantastic.
You know what it is, I'm still getting used to all this palaver. I get there. Can you see that?
We can, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your patience, guys. Anyway, right, this is my journey to finding my life's purpose, okay? So coming from the Halifax, had a 5-year career break. I'm quite lucky because not a lot of people have that opportunity to have that cushion. So I thought to myself, it didn't work out, just go back and I can just go on that film, you know? So, go to Spain. This used to be a rundown amusement arcade. I know Anna and Susan have seen this before, but we're outside, we built this terrace. We had to get 3 Indian chefs, Punjabi chefs, that were really good quality. And I used to do surveys to make sure the food was okay. And we transformed it. But honestly, the work and the dedication to make this business work was phenomenal. You know, we're starting work at 9 o'clock in the morning, finishing at 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the sort of dedication you had to do to make this work. So living the dream, you know, we were living in a big mansion, Mercedes, all the things that you think should make you happy, all the things that we're told to make that's going to make you happy. We had the cinema room, the jacuzzi, beautiful views over the harbour. From the outside, everyone's thinking, crikey, you've got the dream, Dan, you're living the life, you know. But because of the sacrifices, there's a few cracks appearing. And unfortunately, my wife and I split up. It was probably the hardest time of my life. And they do say that you really do sort of find yourself when you go down to your dark place, and I could totally agree with that. But I never regret it. She gave me 2 beautiful children. I've got Darcy and Callan. Darcy's 16 now, Callan's 11. But because we split up, I had to leave them. So it really broke my heart. So for 1 year, it was very, very dark. I had to really find myself. And I've got a really good friend of mine who's been traveling around the world for 8 years. So I thought, sod it, I'm going to get fit. It took me about 6 months to get proper fit. And I phoned him up, I said, where are you, mate? And he goes, I'm cycling around the rainforests in Borneo. I said, right, I'm coming. So I got my bike. Like they always say, come out of your comfort zone. That's where the magic is. So true. Then all of a sudden, I'm living my life, waking up in the morning and not knowing how the day's going to unfold. And how magical is that? You're living in the now. I know a lot of people say, you know, you've got to live in the now. I was living in the now, really testing myself. So what we did, we went around Borneo, Malaysia, just following the road. What's at the end of that road? Who knows? But we were going to Goa. I was learning about the lessons of forgiveness. It's a big lesson in itself. It's not for them, it's for you. So I learned all about forgiveness. Going around to all the schools, meeting up with the teachers and giving the kids inspiration and telling them where we're from, giving them hope and saying that there's more out in the world than there is just in Malaysia. So we're doing all like school talks, which I really enjoyed. And then, of course, the 3 months, I only did it for 3 months. My mate's been traveling the world for 8 years. And I thought to myself, I've got to go back. I'm missing my kids. You know, I'm repaired now. I'm strong. I can go on to my next chapter of life. So we had to sell our Indian restaurant and our properties. We had a few properties in England. So we sold all of those. And then the people that took over the restaurant, they said, Dan, why don't you come on board as a business partner? So this is my business partner, Darren. Well, I've got two business partners. He's got a twin brother. Lovely guys. They said, Dan, come on, you know this business. Come on as a business partner. I said, yeah, I'll come on as a business partner, but I'm only going to work from 9 till 1. They said, you do whatever you want, just please that you're with us, sort of thing, you know. So it's great, you know. So the first year I was working from 9 till 1 rather from 9 till 1 in the morning. And then I had all this time, you know. I was in the afternoon, I was picking Callan up from school, we're going snorkeling, we're playing tennis, we're going on the bike. And then those sort of like feelings of like, is that it? Is this my life? You know, it's coming back to me. I was thinking, I feel like I'm a bit wasted, you know. But the good thing about the restaurant is that I've got a lot of good connections, know a lot of people. And what I thought I'd do with, instead of just, you know, wasting my time, I because I can speak Spanish. I've been here for 20 years. My Spanish is okay. I'll probably give it a 3 out of 10. My daughter would say 6, but I wanted to improve it. So I thought, I've got my time. Let's go to the food bank and mix with the Spanish a bit. So that's what I did. So I started waking up at the food bank. Then, of course, it was about the same time as COVID come along. And what happened was, I know a lot of musicians, you know, because I'm really into my music over here, and a lot of the musicians I do know, because we go around and support them. And I said to the musicians, why don't you, you know, how's it all going? They said, because of COVID, we've got no jobs, because we're about 15 minutes away from Benidorm. I said, why don't you come up to the food bank and we can look after you, because I'm volunteering there at the moment. But because of bureaucracy over there, they didn't have the right paperwork, so they couldn't really have any support. So I said to the food bank, why don't you give me the raw materials? I'll get my Indian chefs to make the food and we can give the food out to the musicians. And the food bank said no, because if anybody gets sick, then it's our responsibility. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go off and do my own community food project. And this is my own community food project. And we've fed about, we've done about 500 packs so far. So what I do, I go around to different businesses and they give me €50, and then we make 25 curry packs. But because everyone's so proud, nobody was coming in to collect it. So I go into the restaurant and say, right, who's come in recently to collect a food pack? They said, Dan. Bob came in and we gave him 15 packs. I'm like, no, that wasn't what the community pack project was all about. So I went up to the town hall, spoke to the councillors there, and they sent this amazing organisation down to the restaurant called Corathon Express. Corathon Express were amazing. They came and collected my food packs and done all the hard work for me. They said, we know exactly which families need it. So this is the ladies coming in to collect the packs. And then I'd had a meeting with them and I said to them, I've been here for 20 years. I've never even heard of your organisation. Who are you? And they said, well, we're like an emergency charity organisation. If anybody needs any help, if there's any domestic abuse in homes, we're there to get the situation resolved. They work at the orphanage. And then we just were sitting having a coffee one day, and I just sort of had an epiphany. I said to them, there's a lot of loneliness within our community. There's so many people that come to Spain to retire, and then one of the partners might pass away, and then the other person is just left in their apartment on their own. So that's when this project was born, because there's a lot of isolation with the elderly people. So this is the project I'm working on at the moment. It's called the Heart Ride Project. And that's how it was born. So we can't change the whole world, but we can change the world of one person. So that's my mission. So yeah, it's a very dear project to me. It's a bit more information about the project. So basically, it's an intergenerational project where they obviously connect the younger generation with the elderly. And what we're going to do is we're going to pick them up. We've got volunteers that will ride the motorised vehicle. And my daughter, for example, will join them, and then we'll take them out. You know, we're going to go and take them up on the mountain. We've got a beautiful mountain here, which is one of my favourite places. And then we're going to sit with them and watch the sunset. You know, things that we take for granted. You know, and then I'm going to blog the lessons that I learned from this particular intergenerational connection. So that's my project. But of course, you know, with this type of projects, you've got to raise money. I need to raise €8,000, which is obviously my target. I've raised 5,000 thanks to people like Anna. She sort of supported me. She helped me set up my my GoFundMe page, didn't you, Anna? You know, which I really appreciated, and gave me a big donation. But the whole journey has been amazing, because what I've been doing is I've been connecting the restaurant with this project, and then I put charity events on, so that the business is doing well, because we're getting business for the restaurant, but also we're having a great time and raising money for my project. So I'm £3,000 short at the moment. So if anyone's got any ideas or can help in any way, I'd really appreciate it. So that's it. So this is the president and the secretary, and because I was doing such good work for them, they made me the ambassador, which is a very privileged position to be in, but also comes with a lot of responsibility, because these are the ladies, like the angels, that go out into the community doing all the curry packs. You know, they're really busy, but it's all they're all volunteers. But because I've got the business and I've got the platform, they're saying, come down, when's the project going to be started? I'm thinking, okay, because we've got a busy time at the moment, because it's the summer. I've had to pause it, get the summer out of the way, and then I can pick up my charity events again. But they may be the ambassador. So what I do now is I go around to different groups, and then I just explain to everybody what we're doing. to get funding. So that's what I've been doing. But of course, I've been putting on music events, which is my passion, you know. So we've got like some beautiful venues. I've done 2 now. And all these musicians give up their time. I've got some amazing friends that always support me. We've done one recently, we raised €1,000. But to raise that €1,000, get all your friends together and have a great party was amazing. That's all I can say. So that's my GoFundMe page. That's the Heart Ride project. And I'm going to leave you now, so I don't want to be going over my time limit. Did I have it here? Let's finish off with a nice little quote. You come into this world with nothing and you go empty-handed. And the wealth of life lies in how you allow its experiences to enrich you. So that's it. So thank you for listening. And if you can help in any way, I'd be really, really grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danny. You know, I've been working with you, or been in contact with you probably for what, a couple of years now, 18 months, something like that. And I know some of your story, but there was bits in there that I didn't know.
Oh, really? Like what?
So thanks for sharing. Just, I knew you had taken off to Borneo, but I didn't realise how long you'd actually been in Spain, for example. I thought it was more recent than that, you know. So, and I didn't realise there had been a gap where you know, you hadn't seen your kids for a while and things were really difficult. I hadn't realised that you had been in that space.
That was a really hard time, because you have to be honest and true to yourself. And a lot of people, they're in relationships, for example, they're not happy and they don't want to, and I know quite a few of my friends are like that, you know, but the thought of going out of that to the unknown is quite scary. But you just got to live your life and be true to yourself, because you also, your children are looking up to you as well, you know. So it's hard though, but my little boy lives with me now. Darcy went back to England.
Oh, it's frozen again.
She's the same with me. She's working at a restaurant, and she's turned out to be an amazing person, you know. So, but all's good.
I love your analogy with, you know, the film and knowing the ending of the film or not knowing the ending of the film. I just love that. I think it's so
true, isn't it? And so many people live that, you know. Like Alan Watts has got a great video about that. You know, I can always share that with you. But he hits the nail on the head, where we sort of go to school, you know, we get conditioned and we have to go and get the job, and then we have to get our pensions, and then we all end up with a big sack of money in an old people's home, you know. That's the route. But the whole purpose of life is the magic of the dance, and the music is what gives you that magic, you know. Absolutely. So, yeah.
Beautiful. So one last thing to ask, if you wouldn't mind doing for us before we come to the end of your presentation. At some point, will you post your GoFundMe link into the gratitude group, please? I know you will have the recording of the details here, but for people who actually just want to search it, if you can hashtag it.
I will do.
And put the link in. That way, if people want to go in and donate, once they've watched this, that they'll be able to. I'm happy to support that.
Because thank you, Susan. I really appreciate that, because I'm at that position now where I really need to try and finish this project. Like we've come across an elderly lady that's one of my neighbours, which I didn't even know about, and she's been stuck in her apartment for 5 years. She's 83 years old. She's on the 4th floor. She's got some family in Valencia that she hardly sees, and she has to pull up a basket to get her food up to her. And I thought to myself, you know, it's really spurred me on now to get her out. Gary and I were talking about it the other day, where, you know, she's got such a great story to tell, and I can't wait to tap into that. So I just need to make that last 3,000 and get it up and running, you know. It was the target at the beginning was about 3.5, 4, and I reached it. But then we had a meeting with the organisation, and then we realised that when we buy this particular vehicle, we're going to buy it from China. And as we know, sometimes the quality is not that good. It would have been a bit of a false economy. So we're now buying a more expensive vehicle. It's got great suspension, but it's going to cost $8,000. So the pressure's on, but it's motivating me now, because I can't wait to get her out and get her after 5 years. Can you imagine watching her first sunset with a little picnic? Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I hope you record it, and I hope you share that with us, Danny, because that would be something to see. Thank you.
Thank you for listening, guys. I really appreciate it.
So I'm going to bring on our Gary now, the chief. He's our chief.
Yeah.
And Gary is going to share his dinner party with us.
That's right. I am going to have a dinner party. I get to bring 3 guests. They can be actual people, historical figures, fictional individuals, mythology. I love the whole thematic of it. And I had this whole thing plotted out with these really intriguing characters. And then I read the old Bible and I came across a part in the Bible, because the Bible, everybody knows the Genesis 1 in the beginning. Everybody kind of knows that part. At the end of the Bible, they actually have this thing in Revelations 12:7 where they talk about a war in heaven, that this happened and it was in the past. So it actually happened before the beginning, because that had to happen before the world was created. And then you have little bits and pieces like in Ezekiel and Isaiah and in Kings and in different books where just little fragments tell you about what this war in heaven was all about and why it was before the worlds were created, etc. So I decided my 3 guests, I'm inviting Jesus, who was there. I'm inviting Lucifer, who was there. And I'm inviting the Father, who was there. But the condition of the Father was he would be allowed to wear a veil, because no mortal can withstand his glory without being consumed. So I have a masked man coming to dinner, and I have these 2 other beings. But this is why I'm inviting them. When you read the book of Job, after worlds are created, man is on the earth, and God has an assembly in heaven, and Lucifer is allowed to enter. He is a member of the court of God, the council of gods. And he tells God, the reason why everything's going so good for Job is because you have been taking care of him. He's got everything going right. And I'll tell you what, he's had no adversity in life. Now, you let me give him enough adversity, I will guarantee he will curse you, God. And God says, okay, you can give him all the adversity, but you can't take his life. Everything else is available to you, but you can't take his life. And so within the boundaries, Lucifer challenges Job, and everybody knows about the trials of Job, and he ended up with disease, and he lost his family, and he lost his cattle, and the enemy came and burned his fields, and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, when all of his friends are telling him curse God, he says, no, I won't. And then Satan has lost, and God gives everything he had in double portions back. All right. So this is why I've invited them, because I want to see how the 3 of them interact. And what surprised me was there was a courtly, gracious, diplomatic politeness that existed amongst the 3 parties. They greeted each other. They greeted them by name. They called them their associate. The Father said he was happy to see him again. Thank you. They were gracious to me for having invited them for dinner. And as we went on with the meal, I said, there was the war in heaven. Really, what was the argument about? What created the circumstances? And I was amazed because God said nothing. Lucifer said he didn't want any of his children lost. And I said, I have a plan so that nobody would be lost, that everybody would come back to the Father, because I know how much my Father loves his children. And Jesus said, yes, our Father loves every child, but our Father also wants every child to choose for themselves. And so he wasn't going to allow anyone to be forced. But my dear brother, what you failed to inform Gary is you wanted all the glory. And you can't have the glory because that belongs to our Father. And because of that, things got out of hand. You rebelled. You got enough gossiping going on in heaven that a third of the host had to be thrown out because they were in total rebellion against our Father. And that is why we had the argument. And I was amazed at how everything was said politely, diplomatically, without emotion, and how the Father just remained silent. Because there's an economy for God. His two sons were speaking. And as long as they were telling the truth, even though Lucifer omitted a piece of it, the other son came forward and presented it. And for me, that was the most amazing dinner party I could have ever imagined.
Thank you, Gary. That's incredibly thought-provoking.
Yeah.
That's one I'm going to go away and chew on, I think.
Yeah.
Has anybody else got anything they want to add?
Oh
there?
yeah, that's a great perspective.
Absolutely.
It's kind of very, okay, that is an ideal of what society is supposed to be. Free speech, free whatever. Respect the other person's opinion and everything else. Doesn't mean it's right, but they have the right to say it and believe it.
Robyn, you are muted
So-
there. You're going
Yeah,
to add anything?
I also think that warrants for myself, especially Gary. I'm going to sit back on that replay because I've written down a couple of things here that I need to go back and really give some deep thought to. So thank you very much for that. It's a wonderful perspective on things, and I think now more than ever it's so relevant to our leadership that's going on around the globe, and I think that there's a lesson in there.
Yeah, I think just leading on from what Robyn said there about what's going on in the world now, that term diplomatic politeness.
Yeah,
That's what I wrote down, and I was like, that almost scares me, because there's a diplomatic politeness that people put on a front to be polite, not to be true to themselves. And that term kind of just went, it just kind of burst out of me. But yeah, I think I too need to mull over that as well.
When I only use the words of man, when I say diplomatic politeness, it wasn't like cold diplomacy. It was just an extreme courtly politeness that existed. It showed that there was fellowship of a sort. I mean, and it almost as if there's no hard feelings. Everybody made their choices, but we are extremely polite with each other. And we can disagree and do it agreeably.
I think too, the whole thing is the politeness, but then that is the acceptance for that being of who they are. And the fact that God wants everyone to have their free choice, their free will, which led to the division as well. So, I mean, a third of the angels went with went with Lucifer because they had the freedom to do so. So that acceptance for who they each were is part of that, right?
Could be. But here's an interesting thing. When I asked what their names were, Lucifer said, people call me Lucifer, but that's not my name. And I was told to call each one of the other two a specific term. And I thought, this is very interesting. Why is it that Lucifer does not want me to know his name?
Hmm.
That makes for an interesting dinner party when you've got the father in a mask and someone else who's not giving his name away.
Yeah. Wow.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely
Thanks,
definitely want to mull over. So I'm going to hand you over now to our Robyn. And Robyn's going to tell us about her dinner party.
Yes, and off the back of that, Gary, sure. I'm just going to share my screen. Right, there we go. Yep. Can all of you see that? Rightio. This isn't the 8th of July. Can you all believe it? Guess who's coming to dinner? And I sat and pondered this, and I always revert to my core values around a lot of my decisions I make these days. And it's very interesting how our core values make up the people around us and the people who we follow and the people who we respect. And my first guest would therefore be Nelson Mandela, maybe everyone's favorite freedom fighter, and mainly because my top core value is freedom. And I'm very mindful that my perspective on freedom is exceptionally different to Mr. Mandela's perspective of freedom. And I'm also very mindful that I have the freedom that I have now in the South Africa that I live in, very specifically because of his leadership and because of the things that he gave up to get his freedom and his vision of freedom. I think one of the questions I would have loved to have asked him directly is how he sees himself. Does he see himself as the terrorist or the freedom fighter? Because in South Africa at the time, we were living in the throes of apartheid, and I grew up in the throes of apartheid, and as a white person, I was fed information that was very specific to Nelson Mandela, and we were all told that he was a terrorist. And he was a terrorist because he blew up things. And the party that he belonged to was the African National Congress, which is today our leading party. And I think if I had sat down to dinner with him at that time, I probably would have had dinner with a very, very different person to what I would have now, because we've had 20 years of a democracy in this particular, in this country. And there's a lot to be said about that. But whatever it is, I'm still exceptionally respectful and exceptionally grateful for this particular man, because I think this man in particular had a very, very, very special way about him. Obviously, I see him as a freedom fighter, and sometimes different perspectives matter. And in fact, I think perhaps all of the time, different perspectives matter. A second question I'd like to ask him is family or freedom. I know a little bit about his story, and I've read his books, And I say a little bit about his story because you never really get to the truth as to what it was behind the scenes. And I know that this man gave up pretty much everything to give us all the freedom that we have in this country. And I'd ask him if he actually regrets it, given the outcome. And maybe he would have a little regret, because his family turned their back on him because of his very, very staunch view about how South Africa was going to be after he was let free. Also, exceptionally, as a white South African, massively grateful for this man who was in leadership at that time, because I think South Africa could have gone very, very differently. Another freedom fighter, if I can call him, is Gandhi, and he sits also very high in terms of how I see people being in times of turmoil. And I'd like to ask Mr. Mandela as to why it was so different. And I think I have a little bit of an idea, because he does answer this question a little bit vaguely in one of the books. And in fact, it's The Long Walk to Freedom. And Gandhi, as you all know, he was passive in terms of how he questioned the ruling government at the time in India and things that were going on there. Whereas Mr. Mandela was exceptionally forceful, and he did cause a lot of hurt and harm in the country leading up to the freedom that we so enjoy. He says, there's a quote by him, and I'm not going to be able to quote it verbatim, but it is very much around when nobody will listen. Sometimes you just have to bring out the force to make them hear and to make them listen. And I think that would be his answer around that. My second guest, also based on my core value, freedom and adventure, two of my top core values, is this man, Renan Ostoik. He is a climber, an alpinist, and together with Conrad Anker and Jimmy Chin, they went off and summited a very, very technical peak called Meru. The climbers call it the shark's fin, because it literally is, it's a shark's fin. And how you summit this mountain is you have to live on portaledges going up to the summit. The amazing story about this guy is that he had a massive accident. They had attempted to summit Meru and failed. And they were going back a third time, and they were leading up to it. And he was in a massive accident, in a skiing accident, which landed him in hospital with a crushed skull. And doctors thought that he would never walk again. And within a very, very short period of time, in 8 months, he was able to rejoin Conrad Anker and Jimmy Chin to make a successful summit on the peaks of Meru, which I think is the most incredible thing. I've watched the movie called Meru, and I'd recommend everyone watch it, because this man is probably the most courageous man I've ever seen a documentary about, because he literally could have given up at that point, but he fought back with everything he had, and he was able to do this exceptionally technical climb. Obviously, the first question I might ask is, why do you choose to climb mountains? And I don't know the answer, and I've tried to look for the answer. And, most climbers would say, well, because the mountains are there. But I think for him, and the likes of Conrad Anker and Jimmy Chin, and, the guys that are passionate about doing this thing of climbing mountains, I definitely think there's something a little bit deeper that pushes them to those places that, that very, very few people get to go. And, they've climbed Everest, and when you compare it, this guy does Everest as a walk in the park almost, so this is why he would definitely be the second guest. And also what actually drove him to overcome that massive accident that he had? What was inside of him? What was that little thing that got him up in the morning every single day? And I would ask him specifically because I know that in this particular journey that I've gone on, every single day I'm checking my mindset, I'm checking in with my emotions, I'm checking in with everything. And this guy, I think, would be a massive inspiration to me if I understood the intricacies of how his mind and his heart work together. And then the third question as well is, how would he describe the high stakes of climbing and the passion, which is often life-threatening to an outsider? Because I think in that question and that answer from him, I think we might get some incredible anecdotes and some tips around how courage can actually keep us moving and keep us true to our goals. My third guest is Lewis Pugh, and my other core value is making a difference. And Lewis Pugh, I'm pretty sure you might know him over there in the UK at least. Lewis Pugh he's a long distance swimmer, which is another thing that I'm very passionate about. But he's not just a long distance swimmer. He swims in the most in the most extreme places on the planet. And he does it for one purpose. He does it to explain that he shouldn't actually be able to swim in the North Pole because it should be iced over. And he shouldn't be able to swim up the fords in Sweden because they should be iced over. And then he did a trip down the Thames as well. And that was the sole purpose of bringing awareness to water cleanliness. And Lewis Pugh is very much, he's an ambassador for oceans, and he's an ambassador for the planet. And I think this is why that third guest, I think, would be a wonderful thing for me, especially because I feel quite passionately about the oceans in particular and the planet. One of the questions I'd ask him is, what keeps him clear on his daily swimming regime? This guy has a house in Cape Town. He lives in the UK, but he has a house in Cape Town. And when he's in Cape Town, he swims every day in that very cold water. Now, cold water to a South African, I get. Probably, this guy swam in even colder water, but he does it on a daily basis. He doesn't end his day without having a swim. And in fact, during lockdown, he was in South Africa, he was with his parents, and he wrote an open letter to the president to say, you need to open the beaches because he's not swimming. And the best thing for everybody is to get into the ocean, those that have it available. So he was very, very forceful around lockdown and how it affected his swimming regime. And me being someone who is passionate about swimming, I'd love to just tap into his passion around keeping up that consistency, which is something that I'm always very, very mindful about. Also, on the bucket list is a channel crossing, and I would love to sit and tap into his knowledge around how he would advise a new channel swimmer all of the tips and secrets around that particular channel swim. And then penguins. He's a very passionate penguin lover, as I am as well. I have a very specific reason why I'm a passionate penguin lover, and I'd love to understand why he focuses on penguins as well. I would assume that it's specifically because it's around planetary needs. Penguins do make up a very valuable part of the oceanic biome, if I can call it that. And because he's passionate about that, I think this is why he also is very involved in sandcarp, as I am very passionate about sandcarp and adopting my little penguins as well. So yes, and those are the three guests. And I'm very mindful as well around my foundational core value of thankfulness and gratitude. And I have this little dream as well, that we are all sitting around a table sometime in our future after our live event, and we're all sitting around. And, I'm always very mindful when I come into this group that this absolutely is a reflection of my core values. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be asking any of you any questions. I'm an introvert. So I'm going to be sitting basking in your company. I'm going to be sitting basking, absolutely absorbing your good energy and listening to the wonderful words that are said and being prodded into thought-provoking things as Gary has shared with us. And yes, I'll just be sitting there very peacefully with all of you, having a wonderful, wonderful dinner. And on that, I will hand back to you, Susan.
Thank you, Robyn. Another really, really interesting and thought-provoking dinner guest list there. I actually found myself wondering what their interaction with each other would be like, as well as your questions to them. But the sorts of questions, because the sorts of mental strength and courage, they've all shown it in some form or another in very different ways.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think you're absolutely right, Susan. They probably have so many similarities, just in very, very different settings. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Wonderful. Has anybody got anything they want to ask Robyn about a presentation?
Oh, I just loved how they're all like people that take immense risk. They're all risk adverse people, and they take themselves to the limit for the greater good, and like you, Susan, you'd love to know how they'd all interact together, because I think they would interweave. It would be a really vibrant dinner table. And I didn't know you wanted to do channel swimming, Robyn. I'll be there to cheer you on. Should you ever do it, I'll rub fat all over you, or whatever they have to do. Be on the side of the boat cheering you on. Yeah.
If you don't mind, I'll pass on the Vaseline, but I'll bring nice warm towels and give
I thought it was fat. I thought it was like goose fat or something they spread on you. That back in the old days.
But I'm practically a penguin, Anna, so.
Well, that's true. You can get one of those nice knitted jumpers too that the old guy was knitting.
I would have loved to ask Nelson Mandela to give us his rendition of Invictus, because he oftentimes would do that, and I would just love to hear it from his own lips.
Yeah.
I heard something somewhere about someone when he was in captivity asking him how he prepared for leadership, and the fact that he prepared all day every day, because there was two options in front of him. One was death, or the other one was leadership. If he was coming out to lead his country, and if he didn't get out, he was going up to sit with the big guy, so
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah. So I'm gonna, if it's all right, Danny, are you wanting to come in? Are you wanting to say something?
No, I just found that really, really interesting, Robyn. That'd be an amazing dinner party, wouldn't it? Yeah, it'd been amazing. But I'm really sort of intrigued about the mindset of these people that take, do this ultimate sort of challenges. I remember watching a documentary. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. Was it called The Alchemist? I don't know if you've seen it. But that guy, crazy, wasn't he? I think he died in the end, didn't he? I think it was the same. I wasn't too sure if it was the same person, but he just was free climbing, wasn't he? He had no ropes or anything. He was just off, and then he got killed in an avalanche, unfortunately.
Yeah,
But
it's the most, I don't know, that mindset is,
it's unbelievable, isn't it? You know.
yeah, I can't even begin to understand it.
I'd like to tap into it, not to that extreme, but I have tapped into it, like Susan knows about the cold, and yeah, we do it. We're lucky. We've got a swimming pool, our restaurant. So in January it's cold. It is cold, probably not as cold as England, but the cold water just does something to you, doesn't it? I can't really describe it. Are you still doing that, Susan? Or?
Yeah, I don't shower without
Yeah,
water cold now.
yeah. I haven't had a cold shower. I haven't had a warm shower for 2 years, and I'm missing that cold. It just sparks you. You just feel alive, don't you? But yeah, amazing dinner guests. I'd love to be there.
Thank you, Robyn. I'm going to move on to Anna now because I'm aware Anna's on a time frame. So
It's all good.
I'm going to move on.
Okay.
Thank you, Robyn. Appreciate it.
Right, I will share my screen too. Okay. Right. Now, being very British, mine's not who's coming to dinner, it's who's coming to tea. I didn't intentionally do this. It just kind of flowed when I typed it, and then I realised, yeah, I should have been dinner. But yeah, never mind. I'm just going to minimise everyone. Bear with me.
I know it's your party. You can call it what you like.
Yeah, they're coming for tea. Probably won't be very civilised, but hey, right.
You see, haven't got to wash up.
That's true. I will have someone there to do all the washing and cooking and all that too, just to reset the scene. So 3 inspiration people round for dinner. That was a brief, but my gosh, it was so hard to just get 3 on my list, and because it was just so full. I could just think of so many people that I wanted to invite. So I think that's where I really struggled with this. Plus, I'd want everyone from this amazing group to be there too, because I think every single one of us in the Gratitude, Inspiration, Happiness group has a story to tell. And my God, maybe one day we will do it. You know, we will sit around the dinner table and share our stories and our wisdoms and yeah, our inspirations. So 2 of whom you have undoubtedly heard of. One who has been so pivotal in my passion today and throughout my life. Another who is a focal point for others' wisdoms. She is a voice, a vector for many. And my final guest is one I can pretty much put money on that you wouldn't have heard of unless you are specialised in the medical profession. So there's a little hint for you. Firstly, let me paint a picture for you of the dinner table. It would be round with comfy chairs and a lazy Susan. Excuse us, there's so many Susans in this group. It had to be a lazy Susan. In the middle with food served from all over the world. It would be cozy country cottage garden setting with flowers and gentle bird song all around us. It would not be excessively fancy, but warming and homely with gentle acoustic music playing in the background. Now the scene is set, let me get on to my guests, the who, the why, and the general chitty chat we would have. So let's start with the obvious. The one that you will all know, double Sir David Attenborough, the only man to be knighted twice. I always remember for my 10th birthday getting the Trials of Life book, which I was over the moon about. I read this book from cover to cover, studying it and being immersed in the amazingness that is our planet and the organisms that inhabit it. I loved an animal book, TV shows, magazines, and accounts from Charles Darwin, James Harriet, Gerald Durrell, and even Terry Nutkins, if anyone remembers a really wild show. But the one who captivates us all and is one of the most, if not the most influential humans on the planet, for the good, is Sir David Attenborough. He's famous for many things based around our natural world and as a speaker for Mother Nature, but did you know that he has 32 honorary degrees? He brought the world televised snooker. I mean, not everyone can be perfect. And there are at least 11 plants and animals named after him. He also sold newts to the University College of Leicester, God, I never can say Leicester, for their zoology department when he was really young. I'm not sure what questions I would ask him though. I did sit there and ponder about this and what would I ask him? And I was like, I don't think I'd ask him much, but I would just sit and listen in awe of his experiences, his history, and his encounters. I've got a little video to play here, so hopefully, I don't know whether, can you hear that? 1 minute. Bear with me, because I haven't shared the audio, just realised that.
When you share and you're sharing the video, you've got to
Yeah.
make sure that sound, yeah.
Okay, ready. It's just a bit of music, but here we go. Obviously that was a YouTube thing, so that's why it said happy birthday at the end. But I think you can watch that video and see why I would want him at my table. The amount of things, incredible things he has done. This quote here, I just love. I love this as he brings together every living organism on the planet as a whole, living in a symbiotic relationship. And the quote is, "It's surely our responsibility to do everything within our power to create a planet that provides a home, not just for us, but for all life on Earth." So that's my number one. Next was a hard one, as I tossed it up between so many people like Simon Sinek, a forward-thinking motivational speaker, Dr. Wayne Dyer, a captivating speaker who realms in self-development and spiritual growth, and Mam Somali, a Cambodian anti-human trafficking advocate who has saved many children in Cambodia from human trafficking, prostitution, and abuse. A woman who has turned adversity and trauma into something so amazing. But the problem with this was, on doing some research, in 2014, she was exposed that not all of her accounts were to be truthful. But still, I wanted to sit with her, as she did so much good that far outweighed the untruthfulness. But also there was another person, Yeonmi Park, who was a 21-year-old, escaped North Korea and exposed it to the world that is blacked out from the dictatorship. How her strength and determination got her out of living hell. How she didn't just succumb to what she was told, that she knew in her heart that life she was living was not how it should be. She was such an incredible young lady. And if you haven't seen her speech, the one where she's dressed in her traditional outfit, I recommend you going and watching it. Then I thought, blow it. Why not invite Oprah? She's interviewed all these people and more 37,000 more people. So who's my number two? Yep, it's Oprah Winfrey. Born January the 29th, 1954, an amazing woman who has made listening, empathy, and support a career, who has had her own adversities, who has been at the hands of misguided people and suffered horrendous abuse as a child. She's not only one of the best interviewers in the world, she is an author, television producer, actress, and philanthropist. I mean, why wouldn't you want her around your dinner table? And you never know, she may give away a car or take us on a fantastic exotic trip somewhere. Questions I would ask her, things like, does fame scare you? Who's the most interesting person you've interviewed? Do you ever not want to be famous? And what scares you the most? And also, because I think we've always got ambition. What is her life ambition? Because obviously she's still living. So what more is there for her? I feel that she would bring feminine prowess to the table and be able to bring her epic interviewing skills to ask the questions that matter. And I have another video here, just a few of her inspirational quotes from a legend, Opra. I especially like anything you can imagine to create, as it is so true. So number 3, who will it be? This person is an inspiration to me, a person I've never met, but I'm so closely linked to. My number 3 is A. Charles King, an inspiring person who you won't know, a man whose work has made a serious contribution in saving anyone's life who has ever been on the operating table. This person is an ultimate entrepreneur, a man that I'm so honoured and proud to, oh God, I got a bit emotional. I'm proud to be related to. Sorry. He's my great-grandfather, Arthur Charles King. Oh, I didn't expect that. Yes, my great-granddad. I would love to sit around a table and not only find out more about my family. Oh God, sorry.
Take your time, Anna. This is amazing.
Sorry, I don't know where that came from.
It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
My mum as a child, was my Uncle David really as much of a prankster everyone said he was? What was London like in the 1900s? His trials and tribulations of being a key contributor to the medicinal world. A. Charles King was an engineer, an inventor, a collector who now still to this day has his name in lights in a teeny tiny museum in London, which many medical students and others visit in London to find out the history of anesthesiology. I can say it now. Of anaesthetists. He made a unique contribution to the anaesthetic society. Between the wars, Charles King had worked up an enterprising business in the making of anaesthetic apparatus and loaning them out. Many London anaesthetists used his readily available services for the discussions and productions of some of their brain children, which he would put together for them, which brings us the equipment we use today in hospitals for putting people under. My mother is an honorary member of the Anaesthetics Association and often helps them out for open days as their heritage site in Portland Place, London. I'm very proud of a man who I've never met.
Oh.
Gosh, sorry. I'm honoured to be a blood lineage with him. I would ask him many questions about how he kept going, what trials and tribulations he went through, how he didn't give up, and what he thought the future would look like. Ah, right, we'll come to the end, sorry. So these are my 3 I'd have around for tea, an interesting, influential, innovative bunch who have made my life contributions to this incredible planet we know today. Cheers.
Oh, well done, Anna.
God.
Well done.
I don't know where that came from. 1 minute, I can't get my Zoom back up now. Oh.
I know that feeling. Sometimes I get like that.
I don't know. That was ridiculous. Sorry.
Oh, absolutely not. My goodness, how proud must you be to have, someone that's made such a massive contribution as one of the.
I've never spoken about it either, I don't think. So it's like, yeah, I didn't realise how proud I was. So
Beautiful.
Hold on a minute, I'll stop.
Anna.
There we go. Oh.
Absolutely amazing. Thank you, and thank you for sticking with it, because hard when your emotions start to come to the surface.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I wanted to give up.
Showed your title there. Amazing! What an amazing, interesting table that would be as well.
Yeah. David Attenborough, he's a legend, isn't he?
I could never not have him at my table.
No.
He would always be there.
And he's a great person. Sometimes, you know, just before my kids go to bed, you think, what should we put on TV? I always put
Yes.
Attenborough on. Just a bit of nature, just to relax the whole atmosphere before they go. It's amazing, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah. And Steve Irwin. Do you remember Steve Irwin?
Oh, I remember when he died. It was the most
No.
tragic. I remember where I was.
It was a Stingray, wasn't it? Or no, was it? I can't
Yeah,
remember.
it was a Stingray. I saw it.
I remember that.
I was on holiday in Australia, and we went to a little island called Tangalooma, and Terry Irwin and Bobby Irwin were there, and they just sat with all of us eating dinner and stuff. Incredible.
Oh,
Really
well,
fabulous people. So yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
don't be sorry, Anna.
Apologise, please don't. Absolutely wonderful. Really, really enjoyed that.
Be really proud, you know.
I also loved the fact that, you know, you gave David Attenborough, or double Sir David Attenborough, his place and didn't actually ask him any questions. You gave him the floor.
Yeah.
And let him speak. I think that's testament to who you are as a person.
Mm.
So, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just say good evening to Scott there in the background? Hi, mate.
Yeah, I'm just nicking in a corner.
How are you, mate?
Not bad yourself.
Yeah, I'm good. Good, nice to see you.
Just earlier on, we thought we were going to outnumber the girls, but I think you just
Yeah, we need some more boys in this group for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if I may be so bold, and I wasn't going to do this, but, you know, I can't see, you know what, going past me. I've decided that I'm going to have one dinner guest.
Oh.
Just to round off, and it is purely to round off, and it's very inappropriate, but it has to be done. And it's Billy Connelly. And I'm going to ask Billy Connelly, he's going to get a fish supper and a can of Tennent's, and I'm going to ask him what his favourite joke is of all time.
Mm.
And he's going to tell me what his favourite joke is. And some of you may have heard this, but for those of you who haven't, this wee guy walks into a pub and he's standing at the bar, drowning his sorrows. And another guy comes in and says, "What's wrong? Or what's up with your face?" is more likely what he would be asked. And he said, "Oh, the wife's dead." "Dead? What happened to her?" "Ah, murdered her. Fed up listening to her. Murdered her. Buried her in the back garden." And the guy said, "Nah, you're telling stories, you're at it." And he says, "No, dead, Jen. I definitely did. In fact, come and I'll show you." So this guy follows him home and follows him back to his close, which is the tenement buildings, and you go in the door and the stairs up to the flats is called the close. And he went right through and out the back door into the back green, as we would call it. And there's a mound of earth with a bum sticking out of it. And the guy says, "What?" He says, "Aye, that's my wife." He says, "But why did you leave her bum sticking out?" He said, "So I'll get somewhere to park my bike." And that was Billy Connelly's favourite joke of all time.
Brilliant. I bet.
So can I thank you all so much for your time and your input tonight. 3 fabulous, fabulous dinner parties there. And of course, our special guest tonight, Danny, with what you're doing in your charitable project. It's, you know, absolutely commendable.
I think we have a responsibility to, you know, because our kids are watching us, you know.
Very much so.
You've got to leave a legacy, haven't you?
You're
And
a role
even-
model, Danny. You
Yeah.
really are.
Absolutely.
Even Callum, you know, like my little boy, he just, you know, he's amazing now. You know, we hear we see like a homeless person, we'd always stop, chat. And I think it's important because the younger generation don't really understand, you know. So we've got to educate them, haven't we?
Totally.
You know, they're watching us. Everything we're doing, the kids are watching us, you know. So I'm very aware of that. But yeah. I think the world needs more love and kindness. You know, all we hear is, we were saying the other night, you know, all we hear is negativity on the news. it'd be amazing if we could have like a happy news channel, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, rather than just such a depressing news channel. That's why you've got such a lovely group here, because you've got that happiness and inspiration and gratitude. You know, it needs more. The world needs more of it, doesn't it?
You know, Danny, just to interrupt you just for a second, the group here have heard me banging on about the kindness diaries, and for those of you that don't know, it was Danny here that introduced us to the kindness diaries.
Have you watched it?
Well,
yeah.
we watched both of them, the one on the bike and in the car. And
It's brilliant, isn't it? I'm still in touch with him. I'm still in touch with Leon.
Oh, are you?
He lives in Los Angeles. But I didn't want to be that person sort of like, hi Leon, you know, can you give me some money? I keep him updated, you know what I mean, with what I'm doing, and that's it really, yeah. But if you get a chance to watch it, if anybody hasn't watched the kindness diary, it's amazing.
I couldn't find it.
Oh really? I think it was on Netflix for a while and then it stopped. But it's an amazing story, isn't it, Susan? You know,
I can't even find it to buy it, because it's one I would buy and keep actually and go back to. But if anybody can find it or source it, please pop it in the group.
Let us know, because I have looked.
But have you seen it?
Just in case anybody doesn't know or hasn't heard me talking about it, this guy, he was a corporate businessman, and he gave up his job to go around the world purely on the kindness of others. And he did one on a rusty old motorbike, and he did one on an old yellow Volkswagen Beetle. And he didn't accept money. He could only accept either food, a bed for the night, or food, shelter, or fuel for the transport. And the stories and what happened and what came out of that were just
amazing, isn't it? Yeah, and the gift that he leaves, you know, because people don't realise he's obviously a millionaire, and the gifts that he gives to people, you know, is amazing, isn't it?
But afterwards, once he's, you know, they've kind of helped him out, he then goes back and gives back, but they don't know that when they're given to him.
Yeah. And then you realise by watching that documentary, there's a lot of love and kindness out there, you know. You know,
always the ones that don't have that give the most.
Definitely, I agree with that.
It's phenomenal when you come through it.
Yeah, and
the Indian family.
Yeah.
The tuk-tuk driver, his wife was pregnant, and they'd all the kids, and they all slept in the one bed, and they all slept, or they wanted to sleep on the floor and give him the bed, and he said no, and they all ended up sleeping together in this one big bed. Unbelievable.
Yeah, there's so many lovely people out there, you know. But like you say, Scott, there's the people that haven't got much, the ones that are more generous. I think they appreciate it more, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, the ones that have got loads of money and that they can sometimes come across a bit arrogant. I get it over here. You get all these people. They think just because they've got all the money, they sort of look down at you a little bit, but they've like lost the meaning of it.
Sight of who they are. And
exactly. We're all equal, aren't we? We're all equal. If you've got money, you can do good things with it, you know. But there's so many people that just concentrate on that, fill up their bank account. I can't remember. I probably watched something. You know, like I learned it at a very young age. I always teach my children it as well. But every person you meet who's got their own accounts, think of it like bank accounts. So, like for me personally, I've got my bank account, obviously. I've got my happiness account, I've got my friend's account, I've got my love account, my charity account, I've got all these different accounts. And I think a successful person is somebody that can get those accounts that are very, very difficult to see. Because obviously your money account goes up. If your money account goes up, something's going to take a toll, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all balanced.
But you've got to try and get that balance, you know. And if you can get that balance, then you're a very successful person. That's what I'm working really hard on at the moment. Yeah, really hard.
Perspective, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think people make the mistake that they fill up. They concentrate on so many different accounts, but everyone's different. You know, everyone's different. But I'm you know, from the SFM journey that we did, what I took away from that was it took me a little while to get into it, but I'm really, really into my morning routine now. So, you know, my morning routine is so important to me. You know, I'm listening to Joe Dispenza. He's amazing, isn't he? Wayne Dyer's amazing. And not going onto social media, I get up about 6 o'clock every morning, do my exercises. And as soon as you have that thought, oh, I can't be bothered, that's when you've got to do it, you know. And as soon as I go out for my run and my walk and I come back, I know you guys are quite the same. You feel bulletproof, don't you?
Yeah.
And you've got that sort of like mindset to do anything that you want that day, you know. But yeah. It's all good, guys. It's all good.
Oh, good.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.